All right, Donald Trump firing his controversial campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, just weeks ahead of the Republican National Convention. The shakeup leaves Paul Manafort, one of the candidate's most experienced advisors, in charge of the campaign going into the general election. Many top Republicans nodding their heads in approval of the change, including Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus.
But this is a new direction for the campaign. I think, when you look at the shift from a primary election over to the general election, this is sort of the professionalization that continues, the pivot to the presidential. I think it's a good sign, for the campaign. Paul Manafort's a pro. I think by building the apparatus around someone who's been through a presidential campaign is a good thing.
Joining us now is Republican strategist Mercedes Schlapp, along with Democratic analyst and the Best Worst President author Mark Hanna. Good to have you both here. So, Mark, I'll ask you first. What do you make of the change-up at the Trump campaign?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Republican leadership is happy because Corey Lewandowski was basically the guy who was running interference between the Trump campaign and the Republican Party. So, look, I don't think the buck stops with Lewandowski. I think the buck ultimately stops with Trump. But he was causing a lot of trouble. He was getting a lot of headlines for things the Trump campaign didn't want to be known for, grabbing Michelle Fields and all these types of things. So I think, look, Lewandowski was way out of his depth. He was good at, his slogan was sort of, let Trump be Trump. Everybody who was going to vote for Trump simply because he had that personality did so in the Republican primary. Now that they're trying to woo independents, woo moderate voters, they actually need a campaign. And when they've got 70 staffers on the ground, and Hillary Clinton has 700, when they raise as much money as Hillary Clinton raises in 3 days, in a month and a half, they're being way outspent, way outmaneuvered. I think it was a good decision for the Trump campaign.
So let's get to that, Mercedes. New reports filed with the Federal Election Commission show that the Trump campaign facing a huge deficit as it heads into the general election. The report says Hillary Clinton has $42 million in the bank, while Trump's camp has only $1.3 million. Mercedes, is that trouble for Trump?
Well, I got to tell you, I think Trump tries to run a very mean and lean campaign, and he makes the argument that he's going to be efficient in how he spends his campaign. But here's the deal. When you're running a presidential campaign, you got to spend money. You got to spend money on ads. You got to make sure that the outside groups are also, the super PACs are also raising the monies they need to go negative against the opponent. I mean, it is critical. When you look at the 2012 race, both Romney alone spent over $1 billion. Obama alone spent over $1 billion. So this is a money game. And let me tell you something. The Clintons are a well-oiled machinery. They know how to spend the money. They know how to target in these swing states. And so for Trump, he's going to have to put on a very strong offense and defense game.
All right, Mark,
and that's going to include raising a lot of money.
Mercedes, I agree with everything you're saying, except he doesn't have to just spend money, he has to raise money. And Republican donors have shown that they're reluctant at best to give any of their money to Donald Trump when he has sort of flailing businesses and, Trump stakes. And the liberals like me will rattle off a laundry list of business failures. But forget the business failures. The fact is Republican donors aren't giving him money, and he has been tightwadding his own cash. So the Democrats are unifying behind Hillary Clinton. We haven't seen that, at least yet, with Donald Trump. He doesn't have any money to spend.
There's a big fundraiser coming up today here in New York City for Donald Trump with some very big names. Anthony Scaramucci's behind it, but John Paulson, Wilbur Ross. I think it's $50,000 per person.
Donald Trump doesn't have enough money to run a respectable campaign for a House race in New York City right now. He does, let alone the presidential
hold on, one at a time, because we need to hear. But Michael,
Mercedes, I want to hear your take, because I think I know Mark's. This is a really big reorganization for the Trump campaign, but is it coming too late? With the dysfunction in his ground game and so forth. Can he get back on track now?
I gotta tell you, I'm concerned. I mean, I've been in 2 presidential campaigns, and the fact is that the Trump campaign is relying on the organization, the coalition's part of it, for the RNC to take hold of the reins of this. And so that is a little concerning, because you can run a mean, lean campaign, but you need to make sure beyond the 500 staffers that the RNC has in the swing states is ensuring that your campaign has representation in these different swing states, that they're able to make sure that they bring voters to the voting booth. So yes, is there a concern? Absolutely. Is it too late?
All right.
He's
Lean-
running out of
get back
time,
in
but
here,
he's got to
Lean
move
and
fast.
lean and mean is one thing. I think what Hillary Clinton is doing is the opposite. It's a robust and it's a nice campaign.
All right, I gotta get you in here.
It's an inclusive campaign. We've seen Trump has the ability to be mean.
I want to get Morgan back in here to challenge you, Mark, because he's talking about Trump's flailing businesses and he's going to need so much more money. Trump says he doesn't need as much money as Hillary Clinton to win this election, and he has gotten to where he has without spending much money. Much different picture in the general election.
You know, I think that Trump needs to go back to the message that worked for him in the primary, right? And the message that worked largely for Bernie Sanders as well. I mean, Bernie Sanders certainly was significant in the Democratic race. Trump ran against the establishment, and that's where the country is. That's where the UK voters are today when you look at Brexit. So I think he needs to pivot back to the message that worked for him, saying, you know what, I may be the Republican nominee, but I'm not the establishment.
Right,
I think he has to stop relying so heavily on the fact that his brand is worth so much. In all his filings, he says, oh, I have $10 billion because my personal brand equity is worth $5 billion.
Do you not believe that it is? Do you
No, I don't. Look, I think his brand is valuable among certain audiences that are willing to be swindled out of their money for Trump University and other things. But for most people, most smart investors, they're not donating to Trump's campaign. They're not investing in a Trump candidacy.
2 words, FBI investigation,
Mark.
Thank you.
One is civil, one sends you to prison.
This is off topic, Big, and we're talking about Trump's campaign.
Hey, wow. All right, we've got to leave it there, guys. How's that for us?
Somebody named Hillary.
How's that for a political discussion at 6:20 in the morning? All right, thank you, Mercedes. Thank you, Mark. Good to have you guys. All right.